disturbing surveillance footage captured a violent altercation between a South Florida rapper and her manager on October the 9th of 2023. The artist involved in the fight was identified as Kiani Camilla Hicks, who went by the stage name Kiani. On the night in question, the 27-year-old was recorded stepping out of a white Lexus while engaged in a heated shouting match with a man who was later identified as her business manager. The pair eventually came to blows, at which point a second man exited the vehicle and started beating Hicks. As shown in the surveillance footage, the two men picked Hicks up off the ground, then slammed her back down before pinning her against the pavement. When the dust-up was over and the rapper was walking away from the scene, she suddenly produced a firearm and discharged multiple rounds in the direction of her manager and his associate. The two men frantically tried to shield themselves from the onslaught of bullets, but Hicks's manager was struck multiple times, causing him to collapse. The other man, meanwhile, jumped back into the Lexus and sped off, running over the injured manager in the process. The latter was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead. Hicks was initially hospitalized with blunt force injuries, but after being released, she was interviewed by police about the deadly incident. Following the emergence of surveillance footage, Hicks was arrested on charges of second-degree murder. She was granted a $50,000 bond and released on house arrest while awaiting her criminal trial. Number 7. Kodak Black and Jackboy. A vehicle containing 6 women was met with gunfire while traveling along the highway in Miami after a performance by Florida rapper Kodak Black on January the 16th of 2023. According to Seminole County officials, the vehicle containing the female victims was not the shooter's intended target. In fact, the intended target was Florida rapper Jackboy and his entourage, who were in an SUV that was driving in front of the car that was hit. Investigators determined that the shooting, which resulted in the death of an innocent woman, was tied to an ongoing dispute between Kodak Black and Jackboy. The pair were former friends and allies who'd become entrenched in a contentious beef. Authorities identified the woman who lost her life as Princess Tolliver, a civilian employee of the Florida State University Police Department. She and the rest of her group had no prior ties to the rappers or their beef. In the end, 13 people were arrested in connection with the shooting. The suspects were described as gang members who used rifles equipped with armor-piercing rounds to carry out the attempted hit. Kodak Black was not directly linked to the crime and therefore faced no criminal charges in the aftermath. Number 6. Colombia Shooting. A contentious rap rivalry in Colombia, South Carolina, led to a shooting shortly after 2 a.m. on September the 16th of 2017. According to local police, there were 2 opposing rap groups involved in the incident. One of the groups was upset with the other for allegedly stealing one of their songs. As tensions escalated, the argument spilled out onto the sidewalk outside of the Empire Supper Club on Park Street in the city's Vista neighborhood. Then, 28-year-old John Bates Jr., known within Colombia's rap scene as Han Dun, drove by the club in a Ford Mustang. At one point, he rolled down the window and fired multiple rounds in the direction of the crowd outside of the club. One of those injured by Bates was identified as 22-year-old Malik Houseal, who was also named as a suspect in the case. Police revealed that Houseal fired gunshots at a passing vehicle before hiding the vehicle and leaving the scene, as captured by surveillance cameras. Furthermore, a Ford Crown Victoria driven by 26-year-old Jarvis Tucker was also involved in the violence. 28-year-old Kivas Goldman, who was a passenger in the Crown Victoria, allegedly fired at least 2 gunshots, injuring a man in the process. In total, 8 people were wounded in the shooting, one of whom was described as the niece of South Carolina State Representative Leon Howard. Number 5. Indian Red Boy. During the early morning hours of July the 8th of 2021. Gunfire broke out at a multi-level gated apartment complex on South Chadron Avenue in Hawthorne, California. Upon arrival at the scene, local police officers found a young man slumped over the wheel of a vehicle parked in a carport behind the building. The victim was identified as Los Angeles rapper Zarael Dijon Rivera, better known by his stage name Indian Red Boy. 21-year-old Rivera had been broadcasting on Instagram Live when he was suddenly ambushed and gunned down. He was later pronounced dead at the scene. Analysis of the Instagram Live video revealed that there had been at least 12 gunshots fired. In the footage, as Rivera bled out from his many critical wounds, he could be seen mouthing "help" to the camera several times before dropping his phone. In the aftermath, law enforcement determined that the shooting stemmed from the rapper's gang-related beef. The young man was a known associate of the Bloods. Prior to his death, he'd gained notoriety for a series of YouTube videos in which he disrespected late rapper and Crip affiliate Nipsey Hussle. In one video, Rivera allegedly vandalized a mural of Hussle. Number 4. Big Cash. 33-year-old John Lavulo, a Sydney rapper under the name Big Cash, was injured in a drive-by shooting on August the 8th of 2020. The man suffered a shoulder wound after being met with a flurry of gunshots while behind the wheel of his Mercedes-Benz. Rival rapper Ali Younes, or A Honcho, subsequently posted a string of videos claiming that Lavulo had snitched on the individual who shot him. Younes also challenged the rapper to a $50,000 boxing match. Lavulo in turn denied his rival's claims, stating that he's never been a rat. Meanwhile, the person charged in the drive-by shooting was 29-year-old Thomas Van der Meijde, a fellow Sydney rapper. Lavulo claimed that he'd never actually met Van der Meijde prior to their clash. However, law enforcement revealed that the pair had been embroiled in a social media beef leading up to the incident. The police investigation established that the drive-by had been an attempted assassination. Number 3. The Fours. 2 members of a Louisiana rap group called The Fours became the focus of a murder investigation during the summer of 2021. On June the 7th, 19-year-old Michael Brock was fatally shot in Bogalusa. Police ultimately pinned the shooting on the pair of 19-year-old rappers named as Taj Shades Taplin and Cardavian Tyvon White. Per the findings of law enforcement, Taplin gunned down Brock before fleeing with White, a known affiliate of Chicago's Gangster Disciples. A high-speed chase that bled into Texas culminated in the pair's arrest outside of Lake Charles, Louisiana. After briefly shaking law enforcement, Taplin and White were pulled over for a traffic violation, at which point they were arrested. The 2 young men were charged with second-degree murder in connection with the shooting, which reportedly originated from a rap beef. Today's topic was requested by King Demon Kaiser, Hot Boy 3D, Kefra Kira 9447, War Soprano 2095, and GI7 Productions 217. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. 50 Cent. A bubbling feud between 2 major players within the 2000s rap scene came to a head outside of an iconic hip-hop radio station on February the 28th of 2005. Curtis Jackson, better known as 50 Cent, had solidified himself as a successful solo rapper, in addition to spearheading the East Coast hip-hop group G-Unit. Meanwhile, a burgeoning West Coast artist known as The Game became a member of G-Unit in late 2003. Although 50 Cent and The Game would go on to collaborate on multiple songs off of the latter's debut album, the pair soon became embroiled in beef. While appearing on Hot 97 radio in New York City, The Game indicated that he didn't want to be involved in any of 50 Cent's ongoing rap feuds. Per subsequent reports, the G-Unit leader found his allies' comments to be disloyal. Then on February the 28th, 50 Cent appeared on Funk Master Flex's radio show to promote his forthcoming album called The Massacre. While the broadcast was live on air, 50 Cent kicked the game out of G-Unit. He went on to claim that he needed to give the game extensive hands-on assistance with his album in order for it to meet the record label's standards. 50 Cent's incendiary comments led to a crowd of G-Unit associates clashing outside the lobby of the station. Eventually, shots were fired, wounded a member of the game's entourage named Kevin Reed. While his radio interview was still going on, 50 Cent's associates removed him from the station and got him to safety. The warring rappers would continue to butt heads with one another for over a decade before finally quashing their long-standing beef in 2016. It's not just in the rap game that things can get bad, but in all of social media in general. Find out what exactly we're talking about by staying tuned till after number 1 to watch the 7 most deplorable social media stars in the world. Number 1. Suge Knight. A heated row on the set of the hip-hop biopic Straight Outta Compton boiled over into real-life violence on January the 29th of 2015. Legendary music executive Marion Suge Knight, co-founder of Death Row Records, started arguing with his friend and business associate Terry Carter, as well as documentary filmmaker Clay Shahid Bone Sloan. Knight eventually followed the two men to the parking lot of a Compton burger joint, where the altercation turned physical. As shown in surveillance footage, Carter and Sloan were run over by Knight's pickup truck. Although the latter would later claim to have acted in self-defense, eyewitnesses told law enforcement that the collision looked intentional. Sloan was hospitalized with severe injuries, including multiple ankle fractures that left him with a mangled foot. Meanwhile, 55-year-old Carter, who co-founded Heavyweight Records and was viewed as a local father figure, was killed in the crash. The ensuing police investigation revealed that Knight had a long-standing beef with Sloan, which stemmed from gang-related conflicts during their youth. Following the incident, Sloan kept a low profile for fear of reprisal from the rap mogul's camp. Following the announcement of his $25 million bond in March of 2015, Knight collapsed in the courtroom. 3 years later, after a series of medical issues that delayed his trial, he pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter. He was consequently sentenced to 28 years behind bars. As of the latest updates, Knight was incarcerated at R.J. Donovan Correctional Facility in San Diego. Following a March 2018 parliamentary election, Colombian politician Ida Milano Robledo won a seat on the country's Senate for the Conservative Party. Discrepancies emerged in the election's immediate aftermath, and Robledo's campaign headquarters were raided by officials from the Directorate of Criminal Investigation and Interpol, who found evidence of a sophisticated voter buy-in network. Through her staff, Robledo, who was 38 years old at the time, had made individual payments of roughly $14 to voters, spending a total of about $527,000 on her campaign, which far exceeded imposed budget limits. Several of her campaign workers were arrested, and in addition to cash, the authorities seized computers and illegally owned firearms from her headquarters. The woman lost her investiture and was charged with corruption of the electorate, conspiracy, weapons possession, and illicit possession of ID cards. In September of 2019, Robledo was sentenced to 15 years in prison by the Supreme Court. Roughly 2 weeks after her sentencing, on October the 1st of 2019, Robledo was escorted by a guard for a dentist's appointment at La Sabana Medical Center, located north of Bogota. On that day, Robledo was visited at the center by her social media famous daughter, 19-year-old Ida Victoria, who was accompanied by her teenage brother Esteban Jose Manzanera. The latter was carrying a backpack which was not searched and which was later determined to have contained a length of rope. At some point during the doctor's appointment, Robledo caused a scene that resulted in her being left alone in the examination room with her children. Manzaneda supplied her with the rope, which she then tied to a table. Surveillance footage would show the disgraced politician then descending into the street from the medical center's 3rd floor. Robledo briefly fell, and concerned bystanders surrounded her, but the woman seemingly ignored them and got onto the back of a motorcycle driven by someone posing as a Rappi delivery driver. Robledo went on the run, and suspicion rapidly fell on her children for aiding in the escape, which generated considerable attention in the country's media, where it was characterized as a movie-like jailbreak. As her mother fled from justice, Ida Victoria capitalized on the attention while facing charges as an accomplice in her escape. She posed nude and in handcuffs on the cover of a magazine with the tagline, "The daughter of the fugitive congresswoman confesses." In January of 2020, Robledo and her romantic partner, Isao Manuel Vargas Silveira, were apprehended by the Venezuelan National Police in Maracaibo, and as of subsequent updates, they were fighting extradition to Colombia. During the 2 years that her trial unfolded, Ida Victoria steadily built on her infamy, becoming a fixture in local tabloids and flaunting her lavish lifestyle to her massive social media following. The added attention was regarded as ultimately detrimental to her legal case, and in September of 2022 she was found guilty of facilitating the escape and for the use of a minor in a crime, given that she'd enlisted her underage brother in the jailbreak. She was ultimately sentenced to 90 months of house arrest. Number 6. Mervey Tasin. For her birthday in January of 2020, Turkish social media star Mervey Tasin visited a world-famous Amsterdam museum with exhibits primarily focused on the history of intercourse. 23-year-old Tasin, who had close to 600,000 followers on Instagram, subsequently posted several photos and videos from the trip to her social media. The uploaded content included her sitting on a giant sculpture of male genitalia, photos of adult-themed toys, or genitalia-shaped pasta. A few months after returning to her home country, Tasin was arrested and charged under Turkey's obscenity-related Article 226 of the Penal Code. Tasin defended her actions by saying that she'd meant the photos to be a joke within the limits of freedom of expression, adding that she hadn't intended to violate any laws. Human rights organizations, as well as the Amsterdam Museum's director, Monique van Marle, rallied to the influencer's defense, with the latter stating, "We admire you for expressing yourself and posting such pictures." Tasin faced spending 3 years behind bars, but was ultimately handed a 5-month suspended sentence. Number 5. Luke Rockwell. Leading up to the fall of 2023, 29-year-old social media star Luke Rockwell gained considerable attention on TikTok, where he posted as Teacher Luke. Rockwell, originally from Melbourne, Florida, had been teaching at private Christian schools in Bangkok, Thailand, and had amassed a following of over 2 million. In early September of 2023, he was arrested for having relations with a student whom he reportedly infected with STDs. They messaged each other for months before they eventually met up and had intercourse. The teacher told the girl that he loved her and instructed her to keep the relationship and their communication a secret until she turned 18, promising that she would live with him after legally becoming an adult. The victim's mother uncovered the relationship after the teen had become pale and complained of abdominal pain. Tests would reveal that she'd contracted gonorrhea and chlamydia from the teacher. Her mother filed a report with local police on August the 29th. The woman later told the media that she wasn't taking action because she sought compensation, but because she wanted every woman and child to know how evil Teacher Luke is and to prevent him from taking advantage of anyone else. The victim's mother noted that Rockwell had preyed on the vulnerable and troubled teen who barely spoke Thai, had hardly any friends at school, and naively believed his love declarations. Rockwell was taken into the custody of local authorities and reportedly confessed to the relationship. Number 4. Raquel Dolores Antiola and Melissa Dufour. In the summer of 2023, Raquel Dolores Antiola and Melissa Dufour, aged 34 and 36 respectively, met up in Miami before driving to Houston for a house party and then heading together to Atlanta. Antiola of Van Nuys, California, was a rapper known on social media as Rocky, and she'd amassed a following of over 118,000 on Instagram, while Floridian Dufour was a fitness influencer who owned her own clothing line. On June the 1st, the Ford Expedition in which the duo was traveling was stopped for a traffic violation on Interstate 110 near Mobile, Alabama. During Antiola and Dufour's interaction with law enforcement, a canine unit indicated that drugs were possibly present in the vehicle. Upon closer inspection, officers discovered that the vehicle had been modified with secret compartments, of which they found a vast quantity of cocaine. In total, the police recovered 84 bundles of the drug, which amounted to 216 pounds at an estimated street value of $3 million. Antiola and Dufour, who'd given conflicting reports about their travel plans, were booked at Mobile County Metro Jail on cocaine trafficking charges, and, according to subsequently released information on the matter, the Department of Homeland Security was looking to charge the women at a federal level. Once news of their arrest broke, online users commented on the influencers' recent social media activity and described some of their posts as ironic in hindsight. 2 weeks before her arrest, Darfur had captioned a photo with, "They have no clue who I'm becoming." While mere days prior to being taken into custody, Antiola had written in a photo description, "Feels good being around a woman who's in her bag and not in her feelings, don't it?" Number 3. Irina Volkova. 30-year-old Russian influencer Irina Volkova made international headlines in the fall of 2021 after she was arrested for flashing outside of St. Isaac's Cathedral in St. Petersburg. The Instagram model was separately shown in photos and videos from the summer of 2021, lifting her skirt to reveal her tattooed bottom with the cathedral in the background. A criminal case was opened for Volkova, who was accused of humiliating and insulting the religious feelings of believers. She appeared voluntarily at an office of the Russian Investigative Committee and was detained. In late October, the model apologized profusely in court for the photo shoot, adding, "I went too far as an Instagrammer, and everything will be deleted, and I will not do this again." Volkova was placed under house arrest, as it allowed her to continue caring for her school-aged son while her trial was pending. The social media star reportedly started receiving threats after investigators highlighted her case. She was eventually given 180 hours of community service. Number 2. Briana Sorz. Instagram influencer Briana Sorz was arrested in the fall of 2021 after launching several drunken attacks on her boyfriend following her recent move from California to Nashville, Tennessee. 27-year-old Sorz, a worker for the Department of Children's Services, first beat up her partner, Justin Bennett, on July the 3rd. The influencer had been to multiple bars and had become severely intoxicated. She and Bennett started arguing, and Sorz attacked her boyfriend by the time they'd reached his vehicle. She continued her onslaught once they'd returned to their Nashville home, which prompted Bennett to alert the authorities. He was left with cuts, bruises, and other injuries from her striking, scratching, and strangling him. It was reported that she was served with a felony warrant for that incident. After a few months, on October the 23rd, Sorz and Bennett went out drinking and another heated verbal altercation ensued. They left the bar separately, and upon meeting back at the house, Sorz started throwing things at Bennett and tried to grab his neck. Bennett pushed her away, left the home, and flagged down a passing police car. The officers found that the man had visible injuries on his throat. Sorz was arrested and was shown with a black eye in her mugshot. She claimed that Bennett had punched her multiple times in the face during the altercation. The police, however, found no markings on Bennett's hands to suggest he'd struck someone. The influencer's court records indicated she'd been charged with felony and misdemeanor assault, aggravated assault, and domestic bodily injury. Number 1. Nandita Datta. An Indian adult film actress with over 100,000 followers on Instagram was arrested by Kolkata police in the summer of 2021 for luring women into making adult films with the promise of acting breaks in Bollywood. 2 unnamed victims came forward accusing 30-year-old Nandita Datta, who was professionally known as Nancy Bobby. One of the victims reported that she'd participated in a nude photo shoot at a studio in Ballygunge, while the other claimed she was made to appear in an adult video at a Newtown hotel. The women were allegedly coerced by Datta and her accomplice, 39-year-old Mainak Ghosh, with both of them assuring the victims that their careers would take off following their participation in the adult content. Datta was arrested in Dum Dum and Ghosh in Naktala. They were charged under 7 Indian Penal Code sections, including the assault or use of criminal force to any woman or abetting such an act with the intention of disrobing or compelling her to be naked. The Bidhanagar Commissionerate stated an intention of interrogating the duo to determine if there were other victims and if they were selling the videos themselves or if they were part of a wider reaching operation. Thanks for watching. Which is the more satisfying method of settling a dispute? Rap battle or fist fight? Let us know in the comments section below.